Good morning. Thank you all for joining. We have a couple of important things to kind of cover on office hours. And if you have any specific questions or concerns, definitely, share those with us on this December 3rd as we go into the final stretch of 2020. So the one thing we definitely want to highlight today is the TRT data that you should have received your files to submit. As we discussed on the last EdTech call, we will be collecting the device portion and the internet portion or network portion of the data that we collect yearly. So let me pull that up so that way you can see what we are looking at and what was sent directly to you. So the first file that you were sent was this technology ready school device Excel spreadsheet. This is a flat file that you can fill out, and we will upload to the data system for you. In this system, we are collecting almost all the same fields we have collected in the past, but we're adding a few additional pieces of information that we had collected inside the digital learning and device portal here. So that way you're not having to submit it in two different places. We're trying to reduce the collections to a single location as we go through this. So in here, we are still collecting, obviously, which school is submitting. We are auto-populating based on when you select your school system codes, as well as your site codes for your particular school. From there, you will be able to get your student population. Now note, in the spreadsheet, it is still showing your 2019 validated student counts. We will be updating the student counts in the spreadsheet to your 2020 submission based on what was put in SIS. So you do not have to update that. We are pulling that for you. We know it's currently not going to populate correctly in the spreadsheet. That's going to be fixed in the upload portion. Then you will have to choose the type of device that you are going to be entering into the system, be that a Chromebook, a laptop, a desktop, tablet, VDI, or other. When you choose that device type, it is going to automatically trigger how you answer the next couple of fields. And that is going to be your device operating system. If you choose Chromebook, the only option you should be choosing for an OS is Chrome OS. So that way it limits down to limit errors or challenges. The next field is going to be the version. So again, if you have chosen Chrome Book, Chrome OS, you will choose your selection options, which I can show you real quick. I'm going to jump over for you. So we're going to just show how this works. If you come to device, we're choosing that Chromebook. When we go to the operating system, we only have the option of Chrome. And when you go to system version, you're either running an older version of the Chrome OS or the current stable version. We're not going to make you go in and figure out which of the 68 versions of Chrome you're currently running. We have tried to simplify this as much as possible. Similarly, if you choose that it is a laptop and you say that it is a Windows laptop, you will only choose from the current versions of Windows. Most of you should have already upgraded to Windows 10. So we have tried to limit down all the options and make it simple for responding in this data entry sheet. The next part you will be looking at is providing your device memory. Again, we have added the normal or basic pieces. If you have, less than or greater than the larger amount. So if you have, this should have been, greater than 256 gigs. So you can do whichever it may apply. Display size, again, we have put all of the potentials in here. Please be aware when you're choosing this. Obviously, if you have a tablet, typically your tablets are not going to have a 30 or 32-inch monitor. Please verify. Last time when we had submissions, we had some, oddities. Double check that you are selecting the correct option. If that device has wireless capabilities, yes, choose that. We have added additional fields here to ask if that device has a camera and if that camera is built in or external. Also, we have added the question around, does the device have a microphone? These questions are being asked so that we have a good sense if there is a need for further, remote testing or other options, that we know what features are available for testing and other learning options as we go forward. Once you've completed all those specs about that device, you don't have to enter each device individually. You can say, we have 300 of these particular devices being currently used. However, you want to be sure when you're doing it, you also note the other fields that have to be completed. Most notably, grade level. So if you bought for a particular school site 300 devices and you're splitting those amongst your 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, you will need to identify, oh, actually, there is 100 of those devices, and those devices are actually for the 3rd graders. Similarly, we're going to ask test device location. So the other thing that you need to identify is the device user for these devices. In the past, some people have only submitted the devices that were assigned for testing. This collection is looking not at just testing devices, although you will identify if you can use it for testing or not. We are calculating all devices. The reason being is this collection has multiple purposes. Again, it is for collecting information for our technology readiness, for that digital learning portal, as well as it is going to be used for CARES Act reporting and how you have spent that CARES Act fund on devices. So if you bought a whole bunch of Chromebooks for teachers to be able to teach remotely, you will want to include those in these counts. So in this case, let's say we got, my mouse is not responding, and I'm not sure why. Okay. Well, not sure why that is messed up. But for device user, as it was showing a second ago, hold on one second, sorry about this. All right, sorry, I'm not sure exactly why it is accidentally had a call come through on my computer, so I'm not sure why it's not dropping, but I'll scroll over here. So under device user, you'll notice you have 4 options, being administrator, teachers, students, or anyone. We then ask further to see what is that device location, meaning where and how that device is used. This is where it's important to know, did you assign this device to an individual student? And is that student only using it during the day at school, meaning your kids do not take that device home, but they have it, they come in the morning, they get a device, they're using it throughout the day in all their classwork, they leave that device at school. The second option is you've assigned those student devices. Those students use that device every day in school, and then they turn around and take those home to work at home. Or it could be that they are a virtual student and they work every day at home and have those devices. The third type is computer lab and library. So those are devices that stay in that lab and library all the time and may be used by anyone who comes in that lab, which is why you would have chose anyone, computer lab and library. You would not choose grade level because it's not a single grade level, but it is shared across the grades. So any different group or purpose would use it. Special purpose labs, or those specialty business labs or STEM labs that are only used for those specific student populations that are taking those courses. Mobile lab and cart is those carts that are moved to different locations based on teachers' needs or uses for having a cart for that instructional day or instructional class. The next is your classroom devices. So it may be a mobile cart that is just that particular teacher's. So it's really more of a classroom set for that teacher to use, a teacher device or an administrator device. For grade level, as I noted, you will assign that if it is assigned. Mostly this is going to be utilized when it is a student or student school only or student 24-hour device. If you can, if you're having trouble submitting it in that way, please reach out to us so that we can work with you on how to submit the data. We understand that different schools did this in a different way when they handed out devices. So it may be a little more challenging to provide this, but we can work with you on how to fill out this portion of the field, because I know it is new, but this is part of how they're wanting to calculate and look at these devices, most notably for those that are assigned to students, and especially those that are working virtually. The next new question on here, as you see, is purchased with CARES Act fund. So you definitely need to include that, because we are having to report to the feds which devices, which types of devices, who the devices were for CARES Act. We learned of this collection after our last EdTech monthly call and right before Thanksgiving, and that collection is due to the feds the 1st of February. So we definitely have to include this information as part of this collection. And then we provided you 2 extra fields where, if you need to provide us information here in this extra info, that these devices are used in a certain way, or please note, we currently have kids taking these home 24 hours while they're virtual. However, when these kids come back in school, we may switch them to just in person, whatever information that will help us understand how you're submitting it is greatly appreciated here and gives us a sense of what we need to know. And then we added a notes field, which is one that many of you used in the past to kind of identify, oh, this is in Miss Johnson's, classroom 235, just to make it easier to go back and find what that is related to. So those fields are there for your help and your purpose. With that, let me answer questions around this particular spreadsheet before we jump to the network and internet portion. So a couple of you have said you do not see where you've received the files. Please email edtech@la.gov and we can validate and make sure that you have gotten your files for this collection. I know there were several people who have changed positions or their emails bounced back. So we want to make sure that we did definitely get it to you. So email them. The second question, should we include spares in the number of devices? Our device counts would be larger than that of the number of students. Yes, go ahead, include your spares in here, and you can put in a note, for a spare, I would identify, it as probably mobile lab or cart, or special purpose lab would be a nice, easier one. And then put in the extra info. These are spares. Obviously, it would not be assigned to a grade level. It would probably be shared across grade levels because, again, it's spared. And note in the extra info field what that is. I have multiple charters and of different types that will need to be calculated for their systems, and they belong to different schools. Can you send me the information for all your different campuses? Yes, definitely. So we will definitely send those to you. Again, like I said, email edtech@la.gov if you have a specific need or change, and we can definitely accommodate that and help. You also can submit all of those charters or multiple groups of schools in one spreadsheet. So you are able to, in the data entry spreadsheet, to select different school systems and different school names so that you can submit one sheet for all of those different entities. So we gave you flexibility so you don't have to submit a different spreadsheet for each different charter that you may operate as a CMO. Questions, if we have to submit by grade level, which student received a device through the CARES and which students received one from the existing fleet? We have to calculate and send those. We do not necessarily have to go in and figure it out by specific student by student. If there is a challenge on how you need to submit that to identify the CARES Act machines versus the current fleet of devices, obviously we can work through what that challenge may be. However, if you bought, I know most of you, everyone has bought a lot of Chromebooks. So obviously if it's a new Chromebook, I would definitely separate those and those that were tied to CARES Act. We're not gonna, nitpick down to, oh, it looks like, you missed one of the Chromebooks that you bought from CARES Act. We also have what you did from your budgets, and we'll be cross-checking between the two. So this is just helping us get to answer some of those questions. Do we have a time frame for gathering this information? So you have over the next month to gather and submit this information. We are asking, and of course, I do realize the holidays are in here. We are asking that this data be submitted by January 8th, or at least, by that weekend, so that we are able to combine that information, gather it, check it, validate it, to both share with Bessie, share with the eventually in the legislative report to the legislature, as well as to meet the filing deadline to submit that data to US Ed for February. So if you again, like I said, if you are having issues or challenges, please reach out to us. If you have submitted data in the past, when we submitted these sheets, we provided all of the data you have submitted to us in the past. In most cases, you received your 2019 data submissions, where you can simply update with the new devices that you have purchased. If you did not submit in 2019, we provided you 2018 data to try and help you get started with the process. If you have never submitted, we could only provide you these sheets to help in the process. Can we just submit a total purchased with CARES Act? Yes, if you would like to put that on a single line so that we can look at that, we can work with you on submitting that so that we can separate how many devices of what type were bought with CARES Act. If we have not received any of the devices and funds and have not been spent yet, do we include those devices? If you do not have those devices currently in your possession and it is, you have not spent that money, no, do not include devices that you are still waiting on, that you are planning to spend your CARES Act on. These should be what devices the district has in their possession and available at this moment. So as of the time of the collection. Once you complete these forms, you will send them back to edtech@la.gov. And again, let's say you finish one, you finish that part of it and you want to send it ahead and just get us to look over it or check it. You're welcome to contact us. We will review it really quick for you, make sure it looks right. This is truly, one of those things that we want to help you with. With that, I don't see any more questions on the device, but if you have one, please put it in the chat box. We're going to look at the network spreadsheet, which is where you will see a few more changes than what you had in the past. So the network spreadsheet is where most of the changes took place because we added a new home internet access tab. This is the same information that you were submitting on the JOT form to the Learning Connectivity Tool portal. In here, we are asking you again to provide any updates on that data, and this is where you'll submit it. Again, like the device spreadsheet, you will choose your system name. It will then populate all the schools within your system. It will ask, did you provide home internet access to any students? Obviously, if no, it makes the rest of these answers really simple. If yes, you will then provide, did you provide hotspots? Yes or no? How many you provided? And those will be whole integer numbers. how many Wi-Fi enabled devices with data plans that you bought. So let's say you bought an iPad with an AT&T plan. So you would add those here if you had those. If you purchased home internet, that would be like a home connection, like a cable or land-based service. If it's no, then you would leave enter 0. If your district created a managed wireless network where your students could get on and use the district's internet from their homes, you would mark yes here. I don't know of many districts in our state that did this, but if so, you would include those here. And did you provide any community Wi-Fi or access points? This value would include where you added exterior access on your school buildings for students to come and get on the network and utilize it to do homework or other reports. So if you added exterior Wi-Fi access at your schools, how many locations where you did that? That may just be all of your school buildings. This includes cradle points or other accesses that you placed or worked with. So let's say you worked with your library and you're assisting your library in adding a Wi-Fi access point outside in order to give service. You would include those locations here. If you have questions about a specific location and which place to include or not include it, then do ask here. The question is, do we include that location if we only added it since the pandemic, or if we had this capability prior to the pandemic? I would include it if you are offering it now, even if you created it prior to the pandemic. So we want to know that where do we have those accesses? And lastly, if you created some other type of mechanism for students to get internet that we did not list here, because these were the definitions that US Ed had provided the state to give answers, include yes here and provide us a description of what that is, what that locate, is it by location? Is it specific number of students? What that may look like. For this particular report, let me reiterate, if you are a district responding here, so let's just choose Allen Parish, you will not enter a school site. You will only enter it at the district level, and you will combine all services only at the district level. If you are an independent school or an individual charter offering the service, you will select, in that case, as I had done at first, where you may have only your one site, you will identify your one school site that this is applicable for. In the case of CMOs, if the CMO operates a complete group, just like a combined LEA reporting, you can do it at the district level. But if you operate different charters that are each considered its own LEA, you will want to select them from the list. And we're just going to make this up right now. So we'll say, CMO did both of these schools. You can enter those each on the line and submit your group of CMOs together. So you have both options. So for districts, again, I should only see one entry across this table. for everything that happened in that district. You will also report how many mobile hotspots were provided by grade level. Again, this was previously submitted in the connectivity portal jot form. When we submitted your data, when we provided these forms to you, we also provided what you had provided and submitted in the last version of that jot form. You can use that data to repopulate these fields here in this form if it has not changed. If it has changed, you can update those values here in this document. Similarly, if you purchased home internet, we need that information by grade level. And lastly, if your students have submitted confirmed internet connectivity, meaning that you did not buy it for them, but they definitely have internet, how many students have confirmed their internet connectivity? Again, each of these grade level fields were submitted through that jot form, and you receive that data back in order to help you submit this data. There's a question. If I've purchased 2,000 hotspots with data plans, do you care about what we have available or just what was issued? What was issued? Here, by grade level, it's going to be what was issued and how many were provided. On our district and school data tabs, these look very similar to exactly what you have submitted in the past. Again, on the district tab, this will be mainly only the school systems that will submit data here, not individual schools or charters that are a single school operator. Because on this tab, we are looking at a wide area network or district provided internet out to multiple locations. However, if you are a CMO where you have, you're offering all the services from a central location to all the schools you serve, then you would complete this district tab and provide all of the data about internet and staffing. So again, no changes here, just clarifying who submits. On the school tab, same thing. We have not made changes here. The school level tab is for only those sites that, district charters and things fill out only this one, and they'll be filling out the same information around internet, WAN speeds, and tech staff. For school systems, you will list your school names in order to provide the information around the wireless and WAN speeds, just the same as we have done in the past. So nothing different on these two tabs. The main new piece is this home internet access piece. And if you had submitted data to the portal, we provided it back to you to easily fill this spreadsheet out and update it. There's a question around for hotspots, if we sent one out per family, where do we count that because it's multiple students? You would actually count and say, you provided here in your Wi-Fi count, it may only show one. However, when we get over here to your hotspot count, that one device serviced 4 different students. So you need to indicate, that particular household has a 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 6th graders. So those 4 forms are there. There's a question, you're not sure who exactly submitted the original data for the dashboard. That was sent to your superintendents initially. But we can identify who was the submitter for you and identify if you want to reach out to, again, edtech@la.gov. We can help you with that process of who submitted data in the past and who should have been updating that information. Again, we try to make it as easy as possible by providing you all of your past data, where you're just having to provide the updates, especially around just the new devices you have already purchased and put out into the schools and into the hands of students. Would smart buses be considered community or exterior access? I would put those as community because those are being parked around the community to be used. So that would be here, all in this community Wi-Fi. So it wouldn't matter either one. I would stick it here in this category. Question was, what should we have gotten from our superintendent? So back in October, that was what I'm referring to. Let me pull up for you. So what we're referring to is that school reopening dashboard. Superintendents were notified back in October, and they had provided, in some cases, many of the district tech directors had submitted that information through that JOT form, and then updated this tool here. And this is the information we sent back to you. So, as I said, we will populate student enrollment from SIS. We are populating this primary instructional mode from SPS, which was you already submitted prior to Thanksgiving. We are submitting this instructional mode by grade, again, from SPS that was submitted before Thanksgiving. And the TRT is collecting and reporting this portion of the information, being devices, which is how many devices of each type, and calculating your student to device ratio. How many devices were issued to students, how those devices that were issued by grade level, and the home internet connectivity for students, being the confirmed internet percentage, how many students had internet, and how many devices were bought by grade level, or how many devices were how many services were provided in home. So you can find this particular data, and if you want to look at your data in another way versus the Excel sheet we provided, you can come up here and pull up your district schools. Let's see if it'll pull up one. And you can see how and what you submitted for your district here to help complete that spreadsheet, if that helps you in that process. And like I said, these fields are being updated currently on here from the data you submitted before Thanksgiving. So you'll see new data on those portions. The data you're submitting in this TRT will update this information for the device portion of the sheet. Again, you can get here from the Strong Start page and clicking on the school reopening dashboard. For those of you who are having to leave early, we will post the recording up on our technology learning page, but we can send out, the links and reminders to you to make sure you can find that to be able to reference it. And if you have questions or trouble finding, again, email edtech@la.gov and we can assist you. With that, that's the main things we want to look at. And if there isn't any other questions, I hope you'll have a great day. Again, reach out. Like I said, if you have trouble filling out any of those new categories around grades, MiFIs, network, let us know so that we can work with you to get this submitted in time. Thank you all for joining today and have a great weekend.